early on writing about this guy, Jesus. And much of the New Testament is written fairly shortly thereafter. And then you see that even historical people who are the disciples of the disciples, they're talking about Jesus as though he lived. And these are guys who are living essentially one generation after the disciples of Jesus.
Well, no, really, the ones that were living about a generation after Jesus supposedly died were the people that wrote the Gospels, these anonymous authors, because the Gospels were being written at a time when any of the disciples, if they even existed, would have been dying off. So there was no way for these people to be disproven at that time. There were no eyewitnesses around. There was nobody to stand up and be like, hey, that's bullshit. I was there that day. Nothing the fuck happened. There was nobody around to say that. So they just made it up using the Jewish scriptures and what they already knew about Jesus. In a sense, you could say that Christianity is just Jewish fan fiction.
So pretty early in history, there's lots of discussion amongst Christians about this guy Jesus. Now, there is some discussion outside of Christianity, but typically it's people talking about the Christians themselves. Jewish people, Greek people, Romans, who are saying, hey, historians who are saying, hey, there's these Christian people, and they all say that there's this guy Jesus that they follow.
Well, I contest this a little bit because they don't say, oh, there's these Christians and they follow this guy Jesus. They don't really say that. I mean, in Tacitus, there is the one line where it kind of talks about it, but that's most likely an interpolation. You can bring up Josephus and all this other stuff, but those are also either wholly inserted or interpolation. Most, if not all, of the extra biblical sources for this Jesus figure are actually talking about Christians themselves and what they believe, not about Jesus as a historical figure or that Jesus actually walked the earth, so therefore that's why these people believed. It was just basically the Christian tenets, like what do Christians believe? That's all that they were talking about. This is far removed from establishing Jesus as a historical figure.
So we know that Christianity starts really early. We can see it from not just the Christian writings that are religious writings, but also these secular or non-Christian sources that are at least mentioning that Christianity existed. Okay, now they're not saying that Jesus is God, but we can see that pretty quickly after the time that Jesus supposedly lived, there's all of a sudden a bunch of literature about him. There's other people talking about, yeah, there's a bunch of followers of Jesus. So there's certainly some type of impact. And so in some ways we can see the impact that Jesus has on the world around him suggests that there is a Jesus itself.
No, God! No! God, please, no! 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 No!
Well, yes, but also just the mere belief about Jesus as this Messiah figure who is the Son of God that absolves the sins of all mankind. Just the mere belief in that could also explain the rise of Christianity. Everything that we know about Jesus is contained in the Jewish scriptures. So I don't see this as a very compelling piece of evidence to suggest that Jesus really did exist. If you have just mere belief that can also explain everything that you're saying, then you really don't have evidence for historicity.
I think we can also look at the lives of the apostles and the disciples, the people that would have known whether this is a true story or not. There was a pretty tremendous religious persecution amongst the early Christians. And some of the disciples, the early followers of Jesus, end up being persecuted to the point where you got people getting exiled to out of the country to islands. You got people who are getting killed for their beliefs. Now, not every disciple of Jesus may or may not have actually been martyred, but we know that some were, and some, like John, end up getting exiled.
Again, all of this is horseshit. Most of this stems from Acts, which is most plausibly historical fiction. So we don't have any kind of historical records that suggest that the disciples or the earliest Christians were ever martyred for what they believed in. Were later Christians eventually martyred for what they believed in? Sure. But at that point, they were so removed from the original Christian sects that they just wholly believed in the faith without any evidence. Even of the apostles that we know about that died were not exactly martyred. I mean, they were killed, but I really don't think that you can make a solid case that they were killed just because they were Christians, which is the implication of martyrdom here. You can't even solidly place when Paul was executed. All of this is leading to the conclusion that, oh, all of these people, they put themselves in danger. They sacrificed their lives. Would they have done that for a lie? Well, for one, yes, you can die for a lie. That's ridiculous to suggest that people don't die for lies. They die for lies all the time. Two, these people didn't think that they believed in a lie. They were not the originators of the Jewish Christian sect that started Christianity. So you're just completely wrong in this particular thought process there, Jimmy.